And welcome back to Ladies Can We Talk. This is Debbie Georgatos, and I hope you enjoyed our interview with Senator Jim DeMint. He is such an impressive thinker, and one thing I love about him, he's always able to take oftentimes quite complex ideas and put them in common sense terms, common sense that the average person would say, gee, that makes sense. Just love that. So he was talking with us about educational savings accounts, and we have a guest joining us in a moment. But I just want to say one thing about this whole issue. You know, there is talk every year in the federal level, in Congress, and in state legislatures around the country about the fact that we talk about income inequality, but really the problem is educational inequality, because you can't achieve and thrive in America without a quality education. So people look at ways, concerned people on both sides of the aisle and just American citizens, what do you do to ensure that children, especially in low-income areas, have the best possible education? What can you do? And so I have with us on the line tonight Stacy Hock, and she is a board member of the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and she's specifically working on this issue with Texas Public Policy Foundation about education policy. So hello, Stacy.
Hi, Debbie. Nice to talk to you tonight.
Glad to have you on. And, you know, I want to have you, if you would, tell us, I know you're working with Texas Public Policy Foundation. You're a board member there and working on this issue, but we talked earlier in the week about how educational savings accounts are just the kind of the wave of the future for school choice. So tell us, if you would, what Texas Public Policy Foundation's efforts are all about. How are you trying to get this moving forward in Texas?
Well, as you pointed out, education is the bedrock of American society for all of us. And here in Texas, we feel that there is a lot of room for improvement in the opportunities that we're providing our children today for education. And what we found at TPPF is through empirical research that children do better when given a choice. You know, as educational choice grows, so does the evidence proving it works. And so we feel that it is time for Texas, although we may be a late adopter, it is time for us to embrace the research and open up opportunity for more higher quality educational seats for all students. And looking across the 30-plus states that have private school choice programs and other kinds of parent empowerment programs, we do feel that education savings accounts are the vehicle of the future. They provide the most flexibility and the greatest parent empowerment to piecing together the right educational solution for their unique child. It's very simple as far as the process and the auditing goes. It's guaranteed funds, unlike some of the tax credit scholarship programs and others that have been enacted. And it hopefully provides an innovative platform for new service providers to come into this space and really create a more innovative marketplace for education services.
I love that. One theme that Texas Public Policy Foundation always stresses is to maximize liberty, to let the free market work. And I would think in the area of educational choice, if a school could come into even a low-income area and develop a quality education that isn't necessarily high dollar, but a quality education that they would entice, if this program were in place and parents had the dollars available to use for their children's education through an ESA, you would see new schools opening up, right?
Absolutely. And we're seeing that to some degree in the charter environment today. You know, we've had a number of high-performing charter operators in Texas for a while now, and we today have over 120,000 children on charter waitlists in Texas. And that's, only children go on those waitlists who are in the areas where they have an option. We are hearing from parents all over the state that they would like to have more options. It's all about access, and too many of our parents, and especially along socioeconomic lines, are not getting access.
It's just so, I love this solution because, and I will tell our listeners, Stacy and I talked on the phone a few days ago, explored all this a little more because I wanted to understand more about it. And it just seems like it's one of those solutions that there is no logical opposition, that the parents get choice. It doesn't cost the taxpayer any more money. The student holds on to the funds year to year. It incentivizes schools to improve, the existing public schools to improve. I can't even see a downside. Isn't that right?
Well, I think that fortunately, like I said, evidence based on data from programs that have been in operation for years now is supporting what we had hoped would be true. I think that traditionally opponents had concerns that school choice itself would not improve outcomes for students. And what we are finding is that universally, if given broad options, students who participate in education options of choice do outperform how they would otherwise. But one of the things I'm most excited about is that there had traditionally been some concerns that we would gut the public school system, that we would draw funds from the public school system, that we would cream, quote, the top from the public school system, particularly along the higher income families. But what we found is realistically we do already have school choice. Families with the means will go to private school. Families with the mobility will move to the suburbs and target specific schools. And by and large, those without those means or without that mobility are the ones that are left without choice in a monopolistic system that's not being productive of results. So the good news is we now have 33 studies on the effects of these educational choice programs on the students who do not participate in, those who stay right where they are in their traditional district school. And what we have found is that those students also outperform how they would have otherwise. So we are seeing that whether it's through competition and innovation that's lifting everyone's boats, or whether it's simply by children being, opting into the models that best serve them and that lifting everyone's boats, because the teachers and the other resources are allocated to the students that they most effectively serve. Whatever it is, we are seeing all boats rise when given choice options.
I love that. And, as I told you on the phone, this 11-minute segment will race by too much, and we still have 3 minutes. I do want to have you tell, if you would, Stacy, about the organization you founded recently, Texans for Educational Opportunity, because it's such a cool idea. So will you share that with us?
Yes. So what we have found is that politically it can be a challenge to get these things done, and there's staunch opposition to change pretty much all the time, no matter whether you want to change your plans for dinner or if you want to change something like the public education system and funding, governance, top to bottom. And so where this has been passed, it has taken a political advocacy organization to support the elected political officials to pass this kind of legislation. And so we are doing that because we want to provide them all the cover that they need, and we want to activate and give a voice to the parents for what they're crying out for. So Texans for Education Opportunity launched last Thursday, or about a week and a half ago now. Former Senator Phil Gramm is on our board. I am on our board. John Caliandro, who is the head of the Texas Conservative Coalition, is on our board. And we are excited about a number of other folks who are going to be joining us, and we'll be announcing those as we go through the fall and lead up into session. And
you already have a website going, right? What is that?
We do. It's Texans. Well, you can do texedopportunity.com or texansforeducationopportunity.com.
We're speaking tonight with Stacy Hock, who is on the board of the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And one thing I meant to mention to our listeners, I'm so glad you shared that other states already are, and many states are ahead of us in Texas, Nevada having a particularly strong example of an ESA. I think that's great to know. And in Texas, there has been litigation over the years about the funding of public schools. And the Texas Supreme Court issued a great decision very recently. Essentially, it was a school finance ruling, but essentially it said, in Texas, the current funding does meet the constitutional requirement the legislature has to provide a good education. So really, it kind of freed the legislators in Texas from just focusing on a finance plan, and which they still have to do. But I mean, it kind of freed them to say, okay, we've opened the door. We're ready to really attack this problem here. It really set the table for them to move forward with a strong emphasis on changing the system and moving toward ESAs.
That's correct. It explicitly says Texas would really benefit from having a private choice program. And it actually quotes an amicus brief that Senator Graham and I submitted, including evidence that shows there is no correlation with higher spend and better outcomes. And that was the reason that the court found that it should, well, among other things, that it did not need to intervene in this particular case and explicitly call for more funding, because it's been shown that alone will not improve outcomes. Choice, on the other hand, is something that we are finding does correlate with better outcomes.
Wow. Stacy Hock, I thank you so very much. I encourage people to go to the Texas Public Policy website. Tell me, our listeners quickly, it's texaspolicy.com. Is that it?
Well, so yes, texaspolicy.com is the TPPF website for Texas Public Policy Foundation.
Okay. Stacy Hock, thank you so very much for calling in.
Thank you, Debbie.